What's going on, YouTube? Graylan Stewart here, virtual wholesaler, entrepreneur, and just bringing you another video. This video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why people do virtual wholesaling, and also, can you do virtual wholesaling locally? So let's dive into that. So when I started back in September of 2018, I kind of did virtual wholesaling right from the get-go as a necessity, really. I was wholesaling in my own backyard, but the reason I had to do it virtually is because I lived in two different states at the time. So virtual was kind of a necessity for me. It was pretty much the only way to go for me because I was literally living in two different states 50% of the time in each state. So I would be a week on, a week off in both of these states. So yes, I did see houses initially on the weeks that I was in that area, but the other weeks, it was 100% virtual. So, but I will tell you also, kind of the importance of doing virtual as opposed to just normal face to face in your own community. Whether you do this in your own backyard or you do this in a completely different state, it's really the same thing. So you can do it virtually, locally, just as easy as you can do virtual in a different state. Okay, and the main difference is the only difference is when you virtual wholesale locally, it's just that you live in that area, but you're still not going out to meet with sellers, to look at houses and do all those things, meet with buyers and all that kind of stuff. You're just doing everything via the phone or internet, or both, really. And it's the same thing you would do if it's a different state. So the reason you would maybe want to do this virtual in your own backyard is because you can just accomplish a lot more, a lot faster, if that makes sense. Because really the whole key to kind of scaling, in my opinion, is doing more business, obviously, but if let's just say you meet with a seller and you have to meet with them face to face. So how many sellers can you actually meet with in a work day? Let's just say from 8 to 5 or whatever, or even 8 to 8, in a 12-hour day. How many sellers can you actually meet with? If you worked 12 hours, 8 to 8, I mean, maybe you can meet with 5 or 6 sellers during that day, depending on where they're located in your area, how long it takes you to get there, the conversations that you have, how long you're on the appointment, all those kind of things. So really you're kind of meeting with maybe 5 or 6 on a good day. But typically, you're kind of scattering those out, maybe 2 in a day, and your drive time and everything else involved with meeting people face to face, which is nothing wrong with that. And I will say, it does work better, but it's not as scalable. Like if you really want to do multiple, over 10 deals on a month-to-month basis every month, I would say that that's probably not the way to do it. But if you're just doing a handful of deals and you're getting your feet wet, I definitely recommend, initially, it's definitely easier starting out that way to do face-to-face. But if you want to actually make it into a business to where you can scale it and keep going, I would definitely recommend virtual, whether that's in a different state or in your own backyard. So, like I said, I started out virtual wholesaling from the get-go because I did live in two different states. I was wholesaling in my own backyard, but it was just easier for me. So that's just kind of the way I did it. And I've shared in other videos that my first 2 deals, I was actually in Las Vegas, just on a weekend trip with my wife, when we got phone calls from the postcards that I sent out. They were supposed to be mailed on a Monday, but they actually hit on a Saturday. So I was literally walking down the strip as we were getting calls. So ended up going to my room a couple hours later and calling some people back and just having conversations. Even had conversations via text through the CallRail app. And I ended up locking up 2 deals over the phone. So my first 2 deals I ever did, I never saw the houses when I got the contracts. Obviously, I was kind of, halfway virtual at first, I guess you could say. Because when I did get back home, I ended up going to see those properties. I didn't really have to because I had friends in the area that could have just checked it out for me. But they were my first deal, so I kind of wanted to see them. But I did lock them up over the phone while I was in Las Vegas on vacation. And once I got back to my city, I went ahead and met the seller and got the key and that kind of thing, just to look at it and then show buyers the properties. But it wasn't necessary. But it is basically virtual wholesaling locally, because I did lock them up over the phone without seeing them. I just kind of finished the ending, kind of not virtual, in person a little bit. But anyway, so long story short, I continued doing that, because I lived in 2 different states for the last 8 years. So that's just kind of what I did. But eventually, once I started scaling up a little bit, once you're doing, more than 4 or 5 deals, it's hard to meet with every single seller that's interested, because you'll just spin your wheels, your time, because not every seller is going to sign with you. But, I could probably talk to 20 to 30 sellers over the phone with decent conversations in a 12-hour day, as opposed to maybe 5 or 6 in person in a 12-hour day. So you can see just that alone allows you to accomplish a lot more. You just have to get good on the phone and just get good with sellers and the conversations to have with them. But you can definitely virtual wholesale, whether it's local or other states around you, or anywhere in the U.S. for that matter. But I would say, even if you are in your backyard right now, or if you haven't even started yet, definitely consider just doing virtual wholesaling locally, because it's not any different, as opposed to doing something else, face to face. It's just a different conversation because you're over the phone, and you don't have eyes on it, your own eyes on it at least. But once you get the contract, you're going to send somebody out there to get pictures and verify everything that they told you, right? So really, you're just trusting what they tell you, and then verifying with your boots on the ground, or your friends in the community, or whatever, because that's kind of what we do. That's why we have the protection of that inspection period, just to make sure everything is what they told us, but also it gives you time to find a buyer as well. So you can virtual wholesale anywhere, but locally is even just as viable, I would say. So if you're new to wholesaling, or if you're experienced and you're ready to kind of go to that next level, definitely consider getting really good on the phones, to where you can lock deals up over the phone. Because nowadays, we don't ever see a property, we don't ever meet a buyer, we don't ever meet a seller in person, and any of those things. We do have boots on the ground in the areas that we wholesale, and that's really the only ones that ever actually see the house. Of course, the buyers, end up seeing it in person, but we never really meet a seller, never meet a buyer, and we don't even know our boots on the ground, personally. So it's pretty simple once you kind of get the hang of all of that. It's not any different than face-to-face, but it's a lot quicker, so you can move a lot faster and do a lot more deals. So hopefully all that makes sense. So if you're wholesaling locally, consider virtual. Virtual wholesaling locally is definitely a good option for you. And then also that gets you prepared to when you want to go to other markets. You're already used to being virtual, right? So that'll help you as well. So anyways, hopefully this video was beneficial to you. Hopefully it made sense. If you have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to leave them in the comments. I always reply to everyone. I'd love to hear your thoughts or feedback. And please give me a thumbs up. I'd appreciate that. And share it if you want. Definitely subscribe if you haven't already. I'd appreciate that as well. So I will check you guys out in the next video coming soon. So we'll see you then.